Linda gave me the honor of, and that's Keth's sister. She's here today. And she gave me the honor of facilitating this celebration of life for Keth, Luke. And so I really feel deeply moved because he was an integral part for a long time of this congregation. He would come and he would go, and he would take pictures of so many events. Ones that are sitting on my computer are from your brother. And when he came, he brought always a light. Like, he was just so enthusiastic about life and light and being with us. So I'd like to begin with a song that speaks to me about your brother.
If this is my last song, if this is my final day, if tomorrow I'll be gone, what do I want to say? If this is my last song, if it's my time to go, when my body's moved on, what will I have to show? No, not fortune or fame, they scatter to the wind. The things that make a name just don't matter in the end. But is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue. Is humankind a little bit wiser about the good that we can do? Does the sun shine a little bit brighter where before there was only rain? If so, then I'm glad I came. If these are my last words for all of the earth to hear, if all that I have ever been is about to disappear, if these are my last words, there's nothing that I need to say. I have only tried to serve. It's never been about talking anyway. So much hurt there is to heal, it's hard to understand. All I can hope to feel is that I am doing what I can. Is the world a little more peaceful? Oceans and sky a little more blue. Is humankind a little bit wiser about the good that we can do? Does the sun shine a little bit brighter where before there was only rain? If so, then I'm glad I came. Have I given hope to the hopeless? Has a hungry soul been fed? Has a child stood a little bit taller 'cause of something that I said? Have I left a little kindness? Have I eased a little pain? If so, then I'm glad I came. For that, I'm so glad I came. If this is my last song, what do I leave behind? What do I pass on if I am out of
So, those words remind me of him, that the light he brings and continues to bring in his memories. So, Wordsworth helps me remember, put it in perspective, this life, this precious life we have. And this is a poem from him. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar, not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God who is our home. So I feel like each of us are a gift to the world this way, with trailing, that we are trailing clouds of glory. And then on we go to our next step. So let us pray. So we just center ourselves in this time and this place. And we focus on that presence of God as we gather here, Father, Mother, God, to celebrate Keth. He left his friends and family, and we're experiencing those feelings of loss. And yet we know that with certain knowledge that he is in your care as he continues his eternal journey. We each uniquely have been blessed by our time of knowing him. And so we've come here to release his earthly body, but to hold on to the memories of a life well spent. In unity, we have a prayer of protection, and so we hold this for him, that your light surrounds him, your love enfolds him, your power protects him, your presence watches over him. Wherever Keth is, you are, and we know that all is well. So lots of times you hear it said that birth and death is, we talk about actually life and death, but it's really birth and death. That birth is just the entering, for me, my understanding of a door, and death is the leaving to that next adventure, and that life is continual, eternal. And so the prophet Gibran says this. This is a vision that I love. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you will truly dance. So in John, we're told not to allow our hearts to be troubled, and that in God's universe there are many mansions, many rooms. And so for us, it's trusting that we know that we are all in God's house of life. And in this house, there are many mansions, and we are on this earthly one. And our loved one, Keth, has passed into another. And yet we're all together in spirit. And again, poet William Blake. And this is the one I like to think about, that is when we leave this earth, that this is our goal, is that we are on earth, this little space, that we may learn to bear the beams of love. And social activist Bell Hooks wrote this: "Every day I'm grateful for having known a love that enables me to embrace death with no fear of incompleteness or lack, and with no sense of irredeemable regret. Loving does this. Love empowers us to live fully and die well. Death becomes then not the end of life, but a part of living." So it's natural for us to grieve, and that can take days or years, and it's different for all of us. And it's not something we can say easily, like somebody said to me this morning that they kind of cringe when someone says they're in a better place. The better place that I can think of is if they're in our heart, if we hold them in our hearts. So I have another song, and then I'm going to invite Keth's sister Linda up, because I found out, this is so interesting, she's a professional storyteller. Yeah. And I told her, I said, "You're making this easy for me today, because usually I interview a lot of people and tell a story about the person. But we're going to get, as only sisters know how to tell, the real scoop on this lovely man." So just to prepare us for that, another song. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
I will remember you, the way that you smile, your embrace, the love you gave. I will remember the space you have left will never be empty, for love never dies, love will remain, and I will remember you. I will remember you, the way that you smile, your embrace, the love you gave. I will remember you. As we gather in this place, we come to the table, and heaven and earth are one, and we will remember you. We will remember you, the way that you smile, your embrace.
Terry Keith Luke. That was his given name. A lot of you don't know that. You just know him as Keth. But his real name was Terry, so most of his mail and all his legal things comes to Terry. Terry and I grew up in Detroit, middle-class neighborhood, kind of a unique street. We lived across the street from the Rouge River, so it was a floodplain and nothing could be built there. So it was a great place as a kid to play. We would play kick the can and hide with the kids in the neighborhood, and we could walk our dog in this field. Terry sometimes fished in this river, which was polluted from the automobile industry. But, we also had friends 2 doors down, a brother and sister we hung out with and played board games with. Now, Keth was the oldest, so he always won. You know, his favorites were Monopoly and Risk. And we did learn chess at some point. I don't remember if he taught me or we learned together. Okay, so now you need to know that he was not like other boys in that he didn't play sports. He was never out in the streets. He got a screwdriver in his hand. He was always taking things apart and putting them back together. Lots of pictures in our family album doing that. And he was indulged. My father built him a raised platform in our basement that surrounded 2 of the support poles where he had his Lionel train set. And we built Terrytown. We had all these little buildings. We would paint them. We would paint the little people that populated Terrytown. And at one point, my dad added on a half of a ping pong table to the side, and we built a paper mache hill where the cows and sheep from Terrytown's farm could graze. Then he graduated to wanting to do experiments. So my dad indulged him by building a lab in our basement, which also had a sink and a toilet, so now we had a second bathroom in the house. I remember Mother taking us during the summer to different places to buy the chemicals that he wanted to put on his shelves for his experiments. From there, my parents built an addition on the house. Terry's room was upstairs, and it was a good-sized room, but there was a raised platform in the back where he had a workshop. He had built-in cupboards, built-in shelves that were filled with radios. So instead of playing in the streets, he was a ham operator. When other kids were playing in the streets, he was on his ham radio talking to people in other countries. When he was 13, he won first prize in the Detroit metropolitan area's science fair meteorology division. First prize, which was a week trip on a U.S. naval minesweeper. Might have been an aircraft carrier, I can't remember. I think it was a minesweeper in the Gulf. And he also won a set of popular science encyclopedias, which I would use for reports. He and my father were members of the Oakland County Sportsman's Club. So they would go there and shoot skeet. And sometimes I would go and watch them shoot skeet. But the main thing Terry liked there, they also hunted for pheasant in the fall. But the main thing Terry liked was their racetrack. He was into fast cars. So he had a little VW painted silver with a roll bar and a big 23 on the side. They parked in front of our house, and he would race that. He also taught me how to drive a stick shift on that car. he also convinced my father to build a hoist in our garage that could lift a car engine out and install a new car engine. So he actually had a Jeep that he wanted to turn into a street racer. So this Jeep, he fixed it up with chrome reverse wheels. It was painted like a teal green color, bright, and it had, now because of him, a 289 high performance engine in it. He could beat a powerful Corvette on the streets, which he loved doing with a Jeep. And I even tried my hand at it sometimes. Yeah, that was fun. Now, because he was so involved in all his projects, I was different. I took ballet lessons, piano lessons, made friends, played with dolls, sang in a couple choirs, different skill set here. So we basically had kind of different lives unless we were on vacation and forced to play with each other. But during this time, he was changing the engines. His buddies discovered I lived there and started asking me out. So now he looked at me with different eyes, you know, not just a little sister. So he even asked me to teach him how to dance. So I did, and we had a kind of the same dancing style. Okay, after high school, he went to Lawrence Institute of Technology to major in electrical engineering. This was in the suburbs of Detroit, so he could still live at home and commute. He joined a fraternity, Theta Delta Chi. He struggled with the math, so spent more time partying with the frat boys. Eventually caught mononucleosis, missed a lot of classes, and before he rebounded from that, it slammed him again. That's when the draft board caught up with him. So now Keth got drafted into the United States Infantry. This upset my mother since Keth had flat feet. So she lobbied our congressman to get him out of that. So by the time he went to Vietnam, where he was stationed in Long Binh, outside of Saigon, he was put in an air-conditioned van where he would repair radios. I think he did some vehicle repairs too. Now in the US Army is when he really gained his love of photography. The picture that sticks with me is of a truck that's blown up at the side of the road. Keth's truck was behind that truck. Those GIs in both trucks were going out, which they did periodically, to the villages to teach English to the children. And that day, luckily, his truck was second. They tried to use different paths all the time, so the Viet Cong would not know where they were going. When he got out of the service, he came to visit me. I was a student at Michigan State University in East Lansing. 40,000 students went there. A high percentage of them were women. This he found very interesting. Yeah, if you knew Keth, you knew he loved women. So he took his GI Bill and enrolled at MSU. He finished a degree in graphic arts and started a photography business right there in East Lansing. He had a rental house filled with various roommates, and he ran that business for 6 years. Then he bought a motorhome. He joined an artist colony that traveled around the United States doing art shows. Yeah. He lived for a time in Big Sur and Mount Shasta and Marin County. one day when he was east of the Mississippi, driving his motorhome up over a rise of a hill, he crashed into the back of a semi, which totaled his motorhome. My dad had to go rescue him. Wasn't too happy about that. So he was back in Detroit living with my parents. Eventually he recovered and got his own rental house in a suburb called Rochester. Big house, again, rental to other people. They had wonderful, excellent Halloween parties. He did corporate business, pets, portraits, models, and weddings. He moved his business to a smaller rental house in Birmingham, and that's where he had his spiritual awakening. He said that happened in 1975. That's when he changed his name to Keth. He took his middle name, Keith, dropped the I, and became Keth Luke. He went to lots of workshops and classes and seminars on spiritual healing and what he called all the alternative stuff. You may have known his partner, Jan. He had a friend, Jan Carter, for a while, and they moved to Maui together. He stored some of his framed photographs in my attic, and they spent time in Maui. Jan eventually left after a year, saying that he was too controlling. Keth could also be hot-tempered and stubborn from time to time. I want to tell you about a couple of trips we took together to Florida to see our parents who were retired there. The first one was in a little sports car he had, packed with suitcases, a blanket, and his two big dogs. This is a hatchback. He had a light, a black lab mix, and now he had Mike, a German Shepherd. And I rode low in the passenger seat with one dog's chin here and another dog's chin here until I couldn't stand it, and I'd go, enough dog breath. You know. When it was my turn to drive, the same thing would happen. The second trip was unique in that we used one of my cars, and I invited my girlfriend, Dora Lee, who taught school with me. It was spring break. We were going to Florida for spring break. So off we went. Linda's time to drive was over. Dora Lee was driving. Keth was shotgun. And I mentioned that she had a headache. So Keth said, "What color is your headache?" She went, "Huh?" And so he taught her, you picture the color of your headache, the shape of your headache, the size of your headache, if it has any patterns or textures, and then you visualize it shrinking, 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 shrinking. And by the time it's gone, your headache is gone. It worked for her, and since he has passed, Dora Lee and I have talked on the phone, and she said, I still use that technique today. It works. In 2020, through Ancestry.com, we found out Keth had fathered a daughter back when he was 38. And I have a picture of Jennifer here. She flew to Florida in 2021, April of 2021, and it's a wonderful person. She's probably watching right now. She said she would. Now, Keth and I sometimes we lived closer together, so we hung out more. Other times we didn't see each other that much. But I had gotten divorced after 12 years of marriage, so we were both single, so then we did hang out together. I remember him taking me to an orphan Thanksgiving dinner. And the best thing he did was take me to the Church of Today, where Jack Boland presided on Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, Jack Boland would tell a story called the water bug story. And when I heard that story, I knew it was a symbol of my life. That encouraged me to take a storytelling class. I was doing some postgraduate work. I took a storytelling class, excelled at it, and marketed myself as a storyteller after that. That was 1986. I have a signature story that I tell at times like this, and I would like to share it with you today. It is a long story, and you'll wonder why she's telling this, but it'll be clear by the end. And I tell it to bring you peace. My story is called Ophelia's Shadow Theater. Once there lived a little old lady named Ophelia. When she was born, and that was a long time ago, her parents said, "Someday our daughter will be a great star actress." They even named her after a character in a play. And it was true. Ophelia had inherited her parents' love of the beautiful language of the poets. That was all. She would never be a great star actress because her voice was too quiet. She did want to devote her life to art, though, in some small way. Now, in the town where Ophelia lived, there was a pretty little theater, and down at the end of the stage, where no one could see it, was a box. It was Ophelia's job to sit in the box and whisper the characters' parts to them in case they got stuck. Her quiet voice was just right for that. Ophelia had been doing this job all her life, and she loved it. Gradually, over the years, she had repeated all the great comedies and tragedies of the world so many times that she knew all those words by heart. She didn't even need to look at the book anymore. But times had changed. Ophelia had grown old. Not many people came to the little theater anymore. There were other amusements like films and television. So the little theater was closed, the actors went away, and Miss Ophelia lost her job too. On the night of the last performance, after the curtain had come down for the last time, Ophelia stayed in the theater all by herself. She sat in her box and thought about her past life. Suddenly, she thought she saw a shadow in and out of the wings, growing sometimes larger and sometimes smaller, but there was no one there to cast it. "Hello," she called in her quiet voice. "Who's there?" Oh, she had alarmed the shadow, and it shrunk. But it soon regained its composure and grew again. "I'm sorry if I frightened you," she said. It said, "I only came in because I thought everyone had left. Please don't chase me away. I've nowhere else to go." "Are you a shadow?" asked Ophelia. "Yes," she said. "My name is Shady." "Well, surely if you are a shadow, you must belong to someone." "Oh, no, there are a great many of us about the place that don't belong to anyone. No one wants us." "Well, that sounds like a sad and lonely life to lead." "It is, but what can I do about it?" "Well, you could come to live with me. You see, I don't have anyone of my own either." "Why, I would love that. That would be wonderful. But I'd have to be joined to you, and you already have a shadow." "I'm sure the two of you will manage to get along fine." and Ophelia's own shadow nodded. So now Ophelia had two shadows. Not many people noticed, but those who did thought it rather strange. Ophelia did not want people talking about her, so in the daytime she would ask one or the other of the shadows to slip inside her handbag. A shadow can slip in anywhere. One day, Ophelia was sitting in church, talking to the Lord God, hoping he was listening. She was never quite sure. Her voice was so quiet. When she thought she saw a shadow against the church's white wall. It didn't have much of a shape. It was kind of tall and thin, but it seemed to be holding out an imploring hand. "Are you one of those shadows no one wants?" asked Ophelia. "Yes, I am, but we've heard there's someone who would take us in. Might that be you?" "Well, I already have two shadows." "Well, then surely one more won't make a difference. Please take me in. I've nowhere else to go." "What is your name?" asked the old lady kindly. "My name is Dark Dismay." "Come along then," said Ophelia. So now Ophelia had three shadows. And so it went. Why, it seemed like almost daily, shadows that didn't belong to anybody kept turning up. The fourth was called All Alone. The fifth was called Peak and Pine. The sixth was called Nevermore. And the seventh was called Sad and Starry. And still the shadows kept coming. Ophelia didn't have the heart to turn them away. Now, it's a good thing shadows don't need food or clothing, because Miss Ophelia was poor. She lived in a little rented room in a house. And the problem was that now when all the shadows were in there with her, it was dark and crowded. It was worse when the shadows would squabble. They would quarrel about where was the best place in the room to be. Sometimes they even had shadow boxing matches. Ophelia would lie awake in bed trying to soothe the shadows with her quiet voice. It didn't do much good. Ophelia did not like fights unless they were written in the beautiful language of the poets and performed on the stage, which was different. One day, Ophelia had an idea. She said, "If you're going to continue living with me, there's something you all must do." From every corner of the room, the shadows looked at her expectantly. And then Ophelia started reciting all those beautiful words she knew, all those great comedies and tragedies of the world. And she asked the shadows to repeat after her. She said some bits rather slowly. And sure enough, the shadows listened well and they learned quickly. And finally, they learned all the great comedies and tragedies of the world. So now at night, things were different. Miss Ophelia's shadows would put on wonderful plays for her. And because a shadow can take on any role it likes, it can be a dwarf or a giant, a man or a bird, or even a tree or a table. Ophelia's shadows put on these wonderful plays, and she would sit in her chair and whisper the characters' parts to them in case they got stuck. In the daytime, however, Ophelia would ask all the shadows except her own to slip inside her handbag. Shadows can make themselves incredibly small when they want to. So the people in Ophelia's town never saw all of her shadows, but they did think something unusual was going on. And people do not like things that are unusual. Behind her back, they would say, "That old lady is rather odd. She should be put in a home where someone could take care of her. Perhaps she's crazy. No telling what she might do. So it was that the landlord where Ophelia lived came to her and said, "From now on, you're going to have to pay twice as much rent." Ophelia couldn't afford twice as much rent. "I'm very sorry then, but you'll have to move out." So Ophelia packed her one suitcase, she didn't own much, and went away from the town she had always lived in. She bought a ticket on the train and started traveling. Even she herself didn't know where. When she had traveled far enough on the train, she got off and continued her journey on foot. She carried her suitcase in one hand and her handbag of shadows in the other. It was a long, long journey. Finally, Ophelia came to the sea and could go no farther. She sat down to rest and fell asleep. Then the shadows came out of her handbag and stood around her, discussing what should happen next. "It's because of us this happened to her. Look at all she's done for us. Look at all she's taught us. Maybe we can use it to do her some good." So when Ophelia woke up, the shadows told her their plan. "Oh, how kind of you," she said. So at the very next village they came to, Ophelia opened her suitcase, took out a white sheet, and hung it over a carpet-beating pole. Then the shadows started acting out the play she had taught them on the sheet, and she sat behind, whispering the characters' parts to them in case they got stuck. At first, only a few children came, who watched in wonder. Towards evening, some grown-ups showed up, and at the end of the performance, they all clapped, and then they all paid a little money for the interesting performance they had seen. So now, at every village and town they came to, Miss Ophelia's shadows became kings and jesters, noble ladies, fiery stallions, enchanters, and flowers, whatever was needed in the plays. People learned about Ophelia. They waited in anticipation for her to come to their town. People had not seen plays like this before. At every end of the performance, they would realize they had been laughing and sometimes crying, but they would always clap, and then they would all pay a little money, some a little more and some a little less. Ophelia was finally able to save enough money that she could buy a little old used car. She took it to an artist and had it painted in bright colors. And on the side of the doors, it said, "Ophelia's Shadow Theater." Now Ophelia could travel anywhere in the world, and her shadows could go with her. This might be the end of the story, but it's not. For one day, Ophelia drove her car into a snowstorm and got stuck. And suddenly there in front of her loomed a vast shadow, much larger and darker than all the rest. "Are you one of those shadows no one wants?" she asked. "I do believe you could say that." "And do you want me to take you in?" "Would you take me in?" asked the shadow, coming closer. "Well, I have plenty of my own shadows, but you must have somewhere to go." "Don't you want to ask me my name first?" "Oh, What is it then? They call me Death. Then there was silence for quite some time. Would you take me in? Asked the shadow more gently after a time. Come along, said Ophelia. And then that great black shadow wrapped itself around her, and her world went dark. But suddenly she felt her eyes opening, eyes that were young and clear, not old and short-sighted anymore. She didn't need glasses to see where she was standing. She was standing at the gates of heaven, and all around her was a throng of figures dressed in brightly colored clothing, all staring at her and smiling. Who are all of you? She asked. Why, we're all the shadows you took in. We needn't wander anymore. We're free. And then the gates of heaven opened. The shadows went in, leading along little Miss Ophelia. They led her to what looked like a marvelous palace, when actually it was the finest, most magnificent theater ever seen. And above the door in gold letters it said, Ophelia's Theater of Light. And now every day the shadows put on plays telling the fortunes of mankind to the angels in the beautiful language of the poets, because the angels know that language too. And it tells them how wretched, yet wonderful, how sad, yet comical it is to be human and live on earth. And Ophelia sits in her box and whispers the characters' parts to them in case they get stuck. And some say the Lord God himself comes to see some of the plays, but nobody really knows for sure. For Keth. Okay. Yeah, he's all of our brothers.
So what did you just hear? Did some things resonate with not only the story, but also Keth? Who knew, right? What an interesting. Did you hear the word like creativity? Vision? What else? Imagination? Yeah. What? Light? Yes. Playful? Uh-huh. Followed his dreams. Loved helping people. And dogs. And dogs. Yes. Is what love? Expressed love. Yeah. Acceptance. Curiosity, yes. So my thoughts are that we keep people eternal by adopting some of those things that we experienced with him. Some of us personally, some I just learned some new things that I didn't know. And I've always thought of life as like a tapestry, and that our life is made by many threads, and each of the people in our lives create some of the threads of our life as well, and they weave into our life. And so for me, I like to take something from each person I meet and weave it. So I'm going to ask you right now to think of something that you just heard and think about what you'd like to do with that. We're going to get quiet for like a minute or so. And if you could imagine your life as this beautiful tapestry, and each of you, if I heard your story, I would just be amazed that each of us so unique. And so I don't know that we realize how much we give to the world. It's usually at this time when we do a celebration of life, we realize, wow, that person really, maybe we need celebrations of life while we're living, right? To understand that. So let's just get quiet for a moment. And let's just let Spirit guide us as to a word or words that are the gift of Keth. And as we take a breath, we just breathe that word into our heart space. And then notice how that word feels, not just a head thought about the word, but what's your heart telling you about this word, about who Keth has been for you? And you might ask yourself, is there a way I can bring this gift that Keth has been on this earthly plane? Is there a way I can bring this deeper into my life to express and to gift this back to the world, to pass the gift of Keth forward? And now with our divine imaginations, we see that moving from our heart space through our smiles, our interactions, our touching other people's lives. Just feel that blessing, the gift that he has been for us. And then just say, perhaps, yes, yes, to living this gift. Yes, I will. Yes, I'm grateful. So that as the poets say, that our gift was on this little earth to live the beams of love. Our gift. Keth's gift to us and our gift. And so we just say thank you for his life. Thank you for that we had the privilege of being in his presence, of seeing that smile, of feeling his excitement for life. And we weave it into our tapestry. And so that it becomes eternal as we pass it on and on. With joy, with gratitude, with commitment. And so it is. So Linda asked me to get, and I don't know who these pictures are, but I scanned them last night. And you might want to say a couple words. And these were some of the pictures that she gave me. She has a lot out in the lobby, beautiful, and some amazing pictures that I couldn't get over.
Yeah, Keth's on the left in that Vietnam picture there. I used to
Yes.
bake him cookies and send them, and he said they always arrived as crumbs, but he and the other GIs ate every crumb, you know. Yeah. I sent him a lot of letters.
And, oh,
With Jan. And that other one, look at that construction hat, but a camera around his
yes.
neck. Ever-present camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that smile he's got on his face on the left. I
It's
really
a little
like-
mischievous.
Yes. I would see that we didn't add that word to our, when we were all saying mischievous,
Yes.
right?
Mischievous. And the one on the left, he was on my boat. I live on a lake. And Noreen, you said you knew the gal in this picture, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Always with the ladies. That guy liked ladies. You should see his house, pinups all over the place.
We're learning more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a poem we read. It's from a Unity minister who wrote the prayer of protection that we read earlier, James Dillett Freeman. And I love this. And by the way, we have a handout for you that Megalina is going to pass out as I read it. He has put on invisibility. Dear Lord, I cannot see, but this I know, although the road ascends and passes from my sight, that there will be no night, that you will take him gently by the hand and lead him on along the road of life that never ends. And he will find it is not death, but a new day. I do not doubt that you are there as here, and that you will hold him dear. Our life did not begin with birth. It is not on the earth. And this that we call death, it is no more than the opening and closing of a door. And in your house, how many rooms must be beyond this one, where we rest momently. Dear Lord, I thank you for the faith that frees, the love that knows it cannot lose its own, that the love looking through the shadows sees, that you and he and I are ever one. So let's pray. Father, Mother God, creator of us all, in whom we eternally live, move, and have our being, we open our minds and hearts to you, that we may be filled with the understanding that brings us the heavenly calm of peace. We thank you for the revelation that there's no separation in spirit. Through you, we are eternally united one with another. We thank you for understanding that although this loved one has passed beyond our sight, he is still with us, and that we are one in you through Christ. So in your loving care, we placed Keth and ourselves, allowing your peace and understanding to fill our hearts, and knowing that all is well. Amen. So I'll leave you with this little reading too. Some of you that have been been here for years have probably heard this before. It's just, and even though I've said it many times before, it still always moves me. It's called There Is No Death. I am standing at the seashore. A ship at my side spreads its white sails to the morning breeze and starts for the ocean blue. He is an object of beauty and strength, and I stand and watch him until at length he is a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, he's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. He is just as large in mast and hull and spar as he was when he left my side. And he is just as able to bear his load of living weight to his destined harbor. His diminished size is in me, not in him. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There he's gone," there are other eyes watching him coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here he comes." So we say goodbye to the earthly Keth, and we bless him on his next step of the journey.
Anywhere, anytime, look inside, you will find I am there in your heart always. Anywhere you want to go, anything you want to be, I will be there with you in your heart. On the phone, in the car, sharing home from where we are. There is no place that we will go without each other in our hearts. Anywhere, anytime, look inside, you will find I am there in your heart always. Anywhere you want to go, anything you want to be, I will be there with you in your heart. Always. We have learned through the years many doubts, many tears, based on fears we have faced. Now we know we're heart to heart. Anywhere, anytime, look inside and you will find I am there in your heart always. Anywhere you want to go, anything
So thank you for being here and creating this celebration together. And join Linda out with those pictures if you have questions. I sure had some. So thank you.